Commander Jake Miller stared at the control screen in front of him. The numbers kept changing, but they all said the same thing. The wormhole was stable. After 3 years of failed attempts, humanity had finally done it. They had created a doorway through space itself. "All systems are green, Commander," said Lieutenant Ryan Clark from his station. "The wormhole is holding steady. We can go through whenever you give the order." Jake looked around the bridge of Earth's Hope. His crew of 28 people had trained for this moment for 2 years. They were the first humans who would travel through a man-made wormhole. They were about to see parts of space that no human had ever seen before. Dr. Lisa Barnes walked up to Jake's chair. She was the ship's expert on alien life, even though no human had ever met an alien before. "Commander, are you ready to make history?" Jake smiled. As ready as anyone can be for something like this. He pressed the communication button. "All hands, this is the commander. We are about to enter the wormhole. Strap yourselves in. We don't know what to expect on the other side." The ship moved forward slowly. The wormhole looked like a giant tunnel, made of light. As Earth's Hope entered it, Jake felt his stomach twist. The walls of the tunnel seemed to spin around them. Colors that had no names flashed past the windows. Then, suddenly, everything went quiet. "We're through," said Navigator Paul Davis. "We made it, Commander." Jake looked out the front window and gasped. Space around them was filled with ships. Hundreds and hundreds of ships, all firing weapons at each other. Bright flashes of light shot back and forth between 2 massive fleets. Some ships were exploding. Others were breaking apart and floating in pieces. "My God," whispered Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's doctor. "It's a war." Lieutenant Commander Sarah Johnson was at the communication station. "Commander, I'm picking up signals from both fleets. They're not human languages, but the computer is trying to translate them." Jake watched as a ship the size of a city exploded, in a ball of fire. He had never seen anything so terrible and so amazing at the same time. "What are they fighting about?" Dr. Barnes was looking at her instruments. "Commander, I'm detecting 2 different types of ships. The ones on the left look like they're made of crystal. The ones on the right look more like insects. These are definitely alien ships." Chief Engineer Kevin Walsh spoke up from his station. "Commander, some of those weapons could destroy our ship with one shot. We should get out of here." Jake thought about it. The smart thing would be to turn around and go back through the wormhole. Tell Earth what they had found and let someone else figure out what to do. But as he watched, he saw something that made him angry. One of the crystal ships fired a massive beam at what looked like a planet in the distance. The planet cracked in half. Jake could see cities on the surface as it broke apart. Millions of beings had just died in an instant. "Commander," said Dr. Barnes, her voice shaking. "I'm detecting life signs on that planet. There were people living there." Lieutenant Commander Johnson turned around. "Sir, the translation is coming through. The crystal ships are called the Vorthak Empire. The insect ships belong to something called the Zephyrian Collective. They've been fighting for over 300 years. Jake felt sick. 300 years of war. How many planets had been destroyed? How many billions of innocent people had died while these 2 groups fought each other? Another planet exploded in the distance. "That's enough," Jake said quietly. Then louder, "That's enough." "Sir?" asked Lieutenant Clark. Jake stood up from his chair. "Johnson, open a channel to both fleets, all frequencies." "Commander, are you sure that's wise?" asked Dr. Foster. "Probably not," Jake replied. "But I can't just watch this happen." Sarah Johnson worked at her controls. "Channel open, sir. Both fleets will hear this." Jake took a deep breath. "Attention, Vorthak Empire and Zephyrian Collective. This is Commander Jake Miller of the Human Eye, Vessel Earth's Hope. You will stop firing immediately." The bridge was quiet. Everyone stared at Jake. In the distance, the alien fleets kept fighting. "Sir," said Lieutenant Clark, "they're not stopping." Jake had not expected them to stop just because he asked, but he had to try. "Send the message again. Tell them that humanity demands an immediate end to this fighting." Dr. Barnes looked at her instruments. "Commander, I'm detecting response. Signals from both fleets. The computer is translating now." The bridge speakers crackled to life. A voice that sounded like breaking glass spoke first. Unknown vessel, you are in Vorthak space. Leave now, or be destroyed. Then another voice. This, one sounding like buzzing insects, replied. Small ship. You interfere with collective business. You will be eliminated. Jake looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting to see what he would do. These people trusted him. They had followed him through a wormhole into unknown space. Now they were surrounded by alien ships with weapons that could turn planets into dust. Johnson, send this message to both fleets, Jake said. You have been warned. If you do not stop this fighting immediately, humanity will stop it for you. Lieutenant Clark turned around in his chair. Sir, with respect, we have 28 people and one ship. They have thousands of ships and weapons we've never seen before. Jake nodded. I know the odds, Lieutenant, but I also know that we can't just leave, not after what we've seen. As if to prove his point, another flash of light lit up space as a Vorthak ship destroyed a Zephyrian cruiser. Escape pods launched from the dying ship, but many were destroyed by secondary explosions. Dr. Barnes was studying her readings. Commander, I'm noticing something strange about how they fight. They use massive amounts of power, but their targeting is very poor. They destroy everything around their targets. Engineer Walsh looked up from his controls. It's like they never learned how to fight precisely. They just use the biggest weapons they have and hope for the best. Jake thought about this. Humans had spent thousands of years learning how to fight wars. They had learned the hard way that destroying everything was not always the best way to win. Sometimes the best victory was the one that saved the most lives. Walsh, can our weapons target their weapon systems without destroying their ships? Kevin Walsh smiled. Our weapons are designed for precision, sir. We could take out their guns and leave everything else working. Jake looked out at the battle. Ships were still exploding. Planets were still dying. Someone had to stop this madness. All right, people, he said. Let's show them how humans fight. The response from the alien fleets came quickly. Both the crystal ships and the insect ships stopped firing at each other. Instead, they turned their attention to the small human vessel floating between them. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Johnson listened to the alien communications and shook her head. Commander, they're laughing at us. Both fleets think we're some kind of joke. Commander Jake Miller watched as the alien ships began to move into new positions. The Vorthak crystal ships formed a semicircle on one side of Earth's hope. The Zephyrian insect ships did the same on the other side. His ship was now surrounded. How many ships are we looking at? Jake asked. Navigator Paul Davis checked his instruments. I count 3,000 Vorthak ships and 2,500 Zephyrian ships, sir. That's 5,500 ships total. Dr. Lisa Barnes looked up from her station. Commander, I'm picking up more detailed scans of the alien ships. These vessels are over 10 miles long. Their weapons could probably destroy a small moon. Jake nodded. He had expected this reaction. No military commander would take a threat seriously from just one small ship, but he had hoped they might be curious enough to listen. Lieutenant Ryan Clark was studying the alien fleet formations. Sir, I've been watching how they position their ships. They don't seem to understand basic military tactics. What do you mean? Jake asked. Ryan pointed to his screen. Look at how they're arranged. They have their biggest ships in front and their smaller ships scattered randomly behind them. On Earth, we learned centuries ago that this kind of formation has major weaknesses. Chief Engineer Kevin Walsh joined the conversation. The lieutenant is right, Commander. They're using brute force instead of strategy. It's like they never learned how to fight smart. Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's doctor, was monitoring alien communication channels. Commander, I'm hearing something. Interesting. The aliens are talking about ending their battle to deal with us first. They want to work together to destroy our ship, then go back to fighting each other. Jake smiled grimly. At least his plan was working. He had stopped the immediate fighting, even if it was only temporary. Johnson, send another message to both fleets. Yes, sir. Channel open. Jake stood up from his command chair. Admiral Krex of the Vorthak Empire and Hive Queen Zara of the Zephyrian Collective. I am Commander Jake Miller of Humanity. We have traveled through space to find you destroying entire worlds in your war. This must stop. The bridge waited for a response. It came in the form of the glass-breaking voice of Admiral Krex. Human Commander, you amuse us. Your tiny ship dares to challenge two great empires. We have been fighting this war for 300 years. What could one small species possibly do to stop us? The buzzing voice of Hive Queen Zara followed. The collective agrees with the Vorthak on this matter. You are insects compared to our might. Your ship will be destroyed as an example to any other species that thinks to interfere with our eternal conflict. Lieutenant Clark leaned over to Jake. Sir, they're powering up their weapons. Both fleets are preparing to fire on us. Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people. They had families back on Earth. Children who were waiting for their parents to come home from the first mission through a wormhole. He was about to get them all killed because he could not stand by and watch planets full of innocent people die. Doctor, Barnes spoke quietly. Commander, we could still go back through the wormhole. No one would blame us for retreating against these odds. Jake considered this. It would be the smart thing to do. Go back to Earth, report what they had found, and let the government decide what to do next. But by the time Earth could mount any kind of response, how many more planets would be destroyed? How many more billions would die? No, Jake said firmly. We're not running. Engineer Walsh looked nervous. Sir, what's the plan? We can't fight 5,500 ships. Jake walked to the front window of the bridge. He could see the alien fleet surrounding them. Weapon systems were glowing as they prepared to fire. Walsh, you said our weapons are more precise than theirs. How precise? Kevin thought for a moment. Very precise, sir. We can hit a target the size of a dinner plate from 50 miles away. Good. And how long would it take you to modify our weapons to disable instead of destroy? Disable, sir? Jake turned around. Instead of blowing up their ships, can we target just their weapons and engines? Leave the ships intact but unable to fight? Walsh's eyes lit up. Yes, sir. It would take about 6 hours to reprogram our targeting systems. But Commander, even with perfect accuracy, we only have enough ammunition for maybe 50 ships, not 5,000. Lieutenant Clark had been studying his tactical display. Wait a minute. Commander, I think I see what you're planning. If we could disable the right ships in the right order, we might be able to cause a chain reaction. Explain, Jake said. Ryan pointed to his screen. Look at their formation. The big ships are protecting clusters of smaller ships. If we take out the main ship's weapons first, the smaller ships will move to defend them, but they'll have to move into predictable patterns. Dr. Barnes was following the conversation. Like dominoes falling down? Exactly, Clark replied. We hit the key, ships first, force the others to react in ways we can predict, then hit them when they're vulnerable. Jake nodded. This was starting to sound like a plan. Not a good plan, but a plan. How long do we have before they attack us? Johnson checked her communications. The alien fleets are still arguing with each other about who gets to destroy us. First, the Vorthak want to do it because we're in their space. The Zephyrians want to do it because we interrupted their battle. I'd say we have maybe 12 hours before they reach an agreement. That gives us 6 hours to modify our weapons and 6 hours to execute the plan, Jake said. Walsh, get started on those modifications. Clark, I want detailed tactical plans for hitting their key ships. Barnes, keep monitoring their communications. Foster, make sure everyone gets some rest. We're going to need to be sharp for this. Dr. Foster looked worried. Commander, are you sure about this? Even if the plan works, we'll be making enemies of 2 major galactic powers. Jake looked out at the alien fleets again. In the distance, he could see the remains of the planets that had been destroyed during the battle, debris fields that had once been worlds full of life. Doctor, these 2 empires have been destroying planets for 300 years. Someone has to show them there's a better way to fight. And if we fail? She asked. Jake smiled. Then at least, we'll fail trying to do the right thing. That's more than most people can say. As the crew began preparing for what would either be humanity's greatest victory or their most spectacular defeat. Jake remained at the window. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he wondered if Earth would ever know what happened to Earth's hope. He hoped that someday, someone would understand that they had tried to make the galaxy a better place. The countdown to humanity's first interstellar war had begun. 6 hours had passed. Chief Engineer Kevin Walsh wiped sweat from his forehead as he finished the last modification to Earth's Hope's weapon systems. The ship's guns could now fire precise energy beams that would disable instead of destroy. Weapons. "Already, Commander," Kevin reported to Jake Miller. "We can target individual systems on enemy ships without causing major damage to the ships themselves." Lieutenant Ryan Clark had spent the same 6 hours studying the alien fleet formations. "Sir, I've identified the key targets. There are 12 major command ships in each fleet. If we disable those first, it should create the confusion we need." "Commander," Jake looked at his crew. They all knew this was probably a suicide mission. Even if their plan worked perfectly, the aliens might decide to destroy them anyway out of anger. But no one had suggested giving up. "Johnson, what are the aliens saying?" "Now?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Johnson listened to her headphones. "They've reached an agreement, sir. The Vorthak will attack us first. If we somehow survive that, then the Zephyrians get their turn. They think it's funny." Dr. Lisa Barnes was monitoring the alien ships. "Commander, both fleets are moving into attack position. The Vorthak ships are powering up their main weapons." Jake nodded. "All right, people, this is it. Walsh, are you ready?" "Ready as I'll ever be, sir." "Clark, give me targets." Ryan's fingers flew over his controls. "First target is the Vorthak flagship. It's the large crystal ship in the center of their formation. Targeting their main weapon array now." Jake looked out at the massive alien fleet surrounding them. Each enemy ship was at least 10 times bigger than Earth's Hope. Their weapons glowed with enough power to turn his ship into dust. But humans had one advantage the aliens did not expect. Humans knew how to fight smart. "Fire," Jake ordered. A thin beam of blue light shot out from Earth's Hope. It struck the Vorthak flagship's main weapon system. There was a small explosion, and the huge gun went dark. "Direct hit," Clark reported. "Their main weapon is offline." The reaction from the alien fleets was immediate. Both the Vorthak and Zephyrian ships stopped moving. Their communications channels exploded with confused chatter. "What are they saying, Johnson?" Jake asked. Sarah listened carefully. "They're confused, sir. They don't understand how we hit such a small target from this distance. Admiral Krex is demanding to know why his main gun isn't working." "Target number 2, Clark announced. "Vorthak heavy cruiser, left flank." Another precise beam shot out. Another alien weapon system went dark. Dr. Amy Foster was monitoring alien communications on multiple channels. "Commander, they're getting scared. I'm hearing panic in their voices. They've never seen weapons this accurate before." Jake allowed himself a small smile. "Keep firing, Clark. Take out their command ships first, just like we planned." For the next hour, Earth's Hope fired precise shots at carefully chosen targets. Each beam disabled a weapon system, a shield generator, or an engine. The humans never missed. They never hit anything they did not mean to hit. And most importantly, they never killed anyone. The alien fleets began to panic. Ships that had been in perfect formation started moving erratically. Captains who had been confident in their overwhelming firepower found themselves helpless as their weapons went dead one by one. "Commander," Dr. Barnes reported, "I'm detecting something interesting. The aliens are trying to return fire, but their targeting systems are too crude. They keep missing us." Kevin Walsh laughed from his engineering station. "It's like trying to swat a fly with a sledgehammer. Their weapons are too big and clumsy for precision work." Lieutenant Clark was working faster now. The aliens were starting to panic, which made them easier to predict. "Sir, the Zephyrian ships are breaking formation. They're trying to get closer to us, but that just makes them easier targets." Jake watched as more and more alien ships found themselves defenseless. "How many ships have we disabled?" 400 and counting, sir," Clark replied. "At this rate, we'll have both fleets completely disarmed in about 4 more hours." The alien communications were becoming more frantic. Sarah Johnson was translating, as fast as she could. Admiral Krex is ordering his ships to ram us, but Hive Queen Zara is telling her ships to retreat. They're starting to argue with each other again. Dr. Foster made an observation that surprised everyone. "Commander, I'm picking up something unusual in the alien communications. They're talking about their families." "Their families?" Jake asked. Amy nodded. "Yes, sir. For the first time in centuries of war, alien soldiers are talking about wanting to go home. They're thinking about survival instead of just fighting." This gave Jake an idea. Johnson sent a message to both fleets. "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath. "Admiral Krex, Hive Queen Zara, this is Commander Miller. As you can see, we have disabled nearly half of your combined fleets without killing a single one of your people. We could have destroyed every ship we targeted, but we chose not to." He paused, letting that sink in. "This is how humans fight. We fight to win, but we also fight to preserve life. Your war has destroyed countless worlds and killed billions of innocent people. It needs to end." The response came from Admiral Krex, but his voice sounded different, less arrogant, more uncertain. "Human Commander, how is this possible? Your ship is tiny, your weapons should not be able to do this." Hive Queen Zara's buzzing voice followed. "The collective does not understand. You could have destroyed us, but you did not. Why?" Jake looked around at his crew. They were all listening carefully. "Because destruction is not the goal. The goal is to end the fighting. We have shown you that your ships can be defeated without being destroyed. Your people can survive without endless war." Dr. Barnes was studying her instruments. "Commander, something remarkable is happening. The alien ships have stopped trying to attack us. They're just floating there, waiting." Lieutenant Clark confirmed this. "She's right, sir. Both fleets have powered down their remaining weapons. They're not fighting us anymore." Kevin Walsh checked his systems. "We've disabled the weapons on over 3,000 ships now. The rest are surrendering without us even targeting them." Jake could hardly believe it. In less than 6 hours, one human ship had ended a war that had lasted 3 centuries. Not through superior firepower, but through precision and restraint. "Johnson, are you getting any new communications from the fleets?" Sarah nodded. "Yes, sir. Both Admiral Krex and Hive Queen Zara are requesting permission to come aboard our ship. They want to talk." Jake thought about this. Meeting with alien leaders face-to-face was not something he had planned for. But then again, nothing about this mission had gone according to plan. "Tell them they can come aboard," Jake decided. "But only small groups. And no weapons." As he watched the alien fleets floating helplessly around his ship, Jake realized that humanity had just changed the course of galactic history. They had proven that there was a better way to fight wars. A way that preserved life instead of destroying it. The question now was whether the aliens would be willing to learn. Admiral Krex looked nothing like Commander Jake Miller had expected. The alien leader was tall and thin, made of what appeared to be living crystal. His body reflected light in rainbow patterns, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like wind, chimes in a gentle breeze. Hive Queen Zara was equally surprising. She looked like a giant insect with beautiful golden wings, but her movements were graceful and her large eyes showed intelligence and curiosity. When she spoke, her voice buzzed softly, almost like singing. The 2 alien leaders sat across from Jake in Earth's Hope's small conference room. Dr. Lisa Barnes and Lieutenant Ryan Clark sat beside him. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. "Commander Miller," Admiral Krex began, "in 300 years of war, no one has ever done what you did today. How is this possible?" Jake looked at both aliens carefully. Up close, they did not seem like the terrible war leaders he had imagined. They seemed curious, maybe even tired. "Admiral, how long have you and the Queen been fighting this war?" Hive Queen Zara answered first. "The Collective and the Empire have been at war since before I was born. My grandmother's grandmother knew only war. This conflict is older than our oldest stories." "But why?" Dr. Barnes asked. "What started this war?" Both aliens looked at each other. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Admiral Krex answered. I do not remember. The records say it began over mining rights to a star system that was destroyed 200 years ago. Jake could not believe what he was hearing. You've been fighting for 3 centuries over something that no longer exists? The war became about the war itself, Zara explained. Each side fought to avenge their dead. More died, so we fought to avenge them too. It never ended. Lieutenant Clark leaned forward. But didn't anyone ever try to make peace? Krex's crystal body dimmed slightly. Peace was considered weakness. A leader who suggested peace would be replaced by someone willing to fight harder. Jake began to understand. These 2 species had been trapped in a cycle of violence for so long that they had forgotten how to stop. Admiral Queen, may I ask you something personal? Both aliens nodded. Do you want this war to continue? The question seemed to surprise them. Zara's wings fluttered nervously. I have lost 3 of my children to this war. Krex has lost his entire birth clan. But wanting peace and achieving peace are different things. What do you mean? Jake asked. Admiral Krex stood up and walked to the small window. He looked out at his disabled fleet. Commander, both our species forgot how to fight with precision. We only knew how to destroy completely. When we fought, entire worlds died. We told ourselves this was necessary, but in truth we simply did not know any other way. Dr. Barnes was taking notes on everything the aliens said. So you kept fighting because you didn't know how to fight differently? Yes, Zara replied. Today you showed us that war does not have to mean total destruction. You defeated our fleets without killing our people. We did not know this was possible. Jake felt a mixture of sadness and hope. There are other ways to resolve conflicts, ways that don't require anyone to die. Over the next several hours, Jake and his crew explained human military history to the alien leaders. They talked about how humans had learned through many terrible wars that the goal should be to solve problems, not to destroy enemies. On Earth, we learned that the best victory is one where your enemy can become your friend afterward, Jake explained. Lieutenant Clark showed them tactical displays of human military strategies. We learned to use just enough force to achieve our goals. No more, no less. Admiral Krex studied the human battle plans with great interest. Your weapons are not more powerful than ours, but you use them much more intelligently. Exactly, Jake replied. Power without wisdom is just destruction. Wisdom with power can build better worlds. Dr. Barnes shared something that surprised everyone. Admiral Queen, while you were visiting our ship, we received messages from across the galaxy. News of what happened here has spread very quickly. What kind of messages? Zara asked. Barnes smiled. Requests for help. It seems your war is not the only one happening in this part of space. We've been contacted by 17 different species asking if humans can help end their conflicts too. Jake was stunned. 17 different wars? Some have been going on even longer than ours, Krex admitted. The Alterian-Bendak conflict has lasted 800 years. The Cosmic Circle War involves 12 different species and has been going for over 1,000 years. Lieutenant Clark looked amazed. How is that possible? How can so many species fight for so long? Hive Queen Zara answered sadly. Because like us, they forgot how to stop. They only know how to destroy, not how to solve problems. Jake felt overwhelmed. Humanity had accidentally stumbled into a galaxy full of endless wars. Species that had been fighting for centuries or even millennia, all because they had never learned what humans considered basic principles of conflict resolution. Commander, Admiral Krex said, would humanity be willing to teach other species what you have taught us today? Before Jake could answer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Johnson's voice came over the ship's communication system. Commander Miller, please report to the bridge immediately. We're receiving priority messages from Earth. Jake excused himself and hurried to the bridge. Johnson handed him a communication device. Sir, it's from Earth Command. They want to speak with you directly. Jake activated the device. The face of Admiral Helen Carter, head of Earth Space Command, appeared on the screen. Commander Miller, we've been monitoring your situation through the wormhole. The entire planet is watching what's happening out there. Admiral Carter, I can explain everything that happened. No need to explain, Commander. You've done something remarkable. But I need to tell you that we're detecting massive energy signatures coming toward your position. It looks like more alien fleets are on their way. Jake felt his heart sink. How many ships, Admiral? Our long-range sensors show at least 15 different fleets approaching your coordinates. Some have thousands of ships. They should arrive in about 12 hours. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. Then he looked back at the communication screen. Admiral, I think they're coming to ask for help, not to fight us. Admiral Carter looked surprised. What do you mean? I mean that humanity might have accidentally become the galaxy's peacekeepers, and I'm not sure we're ready for that responsibility. As Jake ended the communication with Earth, he realized that the easy part was over. Stopping one war had been difficult enough, but now it seemed like humanity was about to be asked to help end wars across the entire galaxy. The question was whether 28 humans on one small ship could really change the way an entire galaxy thought about conflict. Jake looked out at the disabled alien fleets in the stars beyond, wondering what would happen when those 15 fleets arrived. Humanity's greatest test was still to come. 12 hours later, Commander Jake Miller stood on the bridge of Earth's Hope and watched as 15 different alien fleets arrived at their position. Ships of every shape and size filled the space around them. Some looked like metal birds. Others were shaped like giant flowers. A few looked like floating cities made of light. How many ships total? Jake asked Navigator Paul Davis. Paul checked his instruments carefully. Over 20,000 ships, sir, representing 15 different species. Dr. Lisa Barnes was working frantically to identify all the different alien types. Commander, I'm detecting life forms I've never seen before. Some breathe methane instead of oxygen. Others seem to be made of pure energy. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Johnson was trying to manage communications from all the fleets at once. Sir, they're all trying to talk to us at the same time. My translation computer is having trouble keeping up. Jake looked at Admiral Krex and Hive Queen Zara, who had remained on Earth's Hope as observers. Admiral, do you recognize any of these species? Krex nodded. Most of them, the bird-shaped ships, belong to the Alterian Republic. They've been fighting the Bendak Empire for 800 years. The flower ships are from the Cosmic Garden Alliance. They're part of the 12-Way War that's been going on for over 1,000 years. They all came here to see what humans could do, Zara added. Word has spread across the galaxy very quickly. Jake took a deep breath. 28 humans were now surrounded by representatives from 17 different wars. The pressure was enormous, but he knew they had to try. Johnson, open a channel to all fleets. Channel open, sir. Jake stood up straight. This is Commander Jake Miller of Humanity. We understand that many of you are involved in long-term conflicts. We are willing to help, but first, all fighting must stop immediately. The response was immediate. Multiple alien voices spoke at once, creating a confusing mix of sounds. Johnson worked quickly to sort them out. Sir, they're all agreeing to temporary ceasefires, but they want proof that we can really help them. Lieutenant Ryan, Clark had an idea. Commander, what if we gave them a demonstration? Show them what we showed the Vorthak and Zephyrians. Jake considered this. But with so many different species and conflicts, a simple weapon demonstration might not be enough. Clark, I want you to work with Barnes and Walsh. Pick 2 of the smaller conflicts and see if we can solve them completely. Dr. Barnes studied her readings. Sir, there's a dispute between the Alterian Republic and the Bendak Empire over a mining asteroid. Only 12 ships are involved. That might be a good place to start. Chief Engineer Kevin Walsh joined the conversation. And there's a border dispute between 2 species called the Nexar and the Yilthi. Just 8 ships total. Their argument is over who owns 3 small planets. Jake nodded. Perfect. Let's solve both conflicts right now, in front of everyone. Over. The next 4 hours, the crew of Earth's Hope worked to understand and resolve 2 alien conflicts that had been going on for centuries. They discovered that the Alterian Bendak mining dispute was over an asteroid that had enough valuable minerals to supply both species for decades, but neither side wanted to share. The Nexar-Yilthi border dispute was even simpler. Both species wanted the same 3 planets, but detailed scans showed that the planets had different types of resources. Each species only really needed 1 planet, but they were fighting over all 3 because they did not trust each other. Johnson, set up a 3-way communication between us, the Alterians, and the Bendaks, Jake ordered. When the channel was open, Jake spoke carefully. Alterian Republic and Bendak Empire, we have studied your conflict. The asteroid you're fighting over has enough minerals for both of your species. We propose that you divide the mining rights equally. Each species gets half the asteroid. The Alterian representative, a being that looked like a giant eagle, spoke first. Human commander, we have considered this before, but how can we trust the Bendaks to honor such an agreement? The Bendak representative, who looked like a walking tree, replied angrily. The Alterians ask about trust? They have broken every agreement we have ever made. Jake had expected this. That's why humanity will oversee the agreement. We will monitor the mining operations and make sure both sides get exactly what was promised. Dr. Barnes added important information. We've also discovered that your species need different types of minerals. Alterians need the metals near the surface. Bendaks need the crystals deep inside. You're not even competing for the same resources. Both. Aliens fell silent as they considered this. Finally, the Alterian spoke. If humanity will guarantee the agreement, the Republic will accept this proposal. The Bendak agreed moments later. The Empire also accepts with human oversight. Jake smiled. Conflict number 1 solved. The Nexar-Yilthi dispute was even easier. When Jake explained that each species only really needed 1 of the 3 planets, and that they could trade resources between their worlds, both sides quickly agreed to split the territory. Conflict number 2 solved, Jake announced to all the assembled fleets. The reaction from the other alien species was immediate and overwhelming. Communications channels filled with requests for help. Species that had been fighting for hundreds or thousands of years suddenly saw hope for peace. But Jake realized they had a problem. Barnes, how many conflicts are we looking at total? Dr. Barnes checked her data. 17 major wars involving 43 different species. Some conflicts have been going on for over 2,000 years. Lieutenant Clark understood the issue immediately. Sir, we can't solve all of these conflicts with just our 1 ship and crew. Jake thought about this carefully. Then he had an idea that would change everything. Johnson, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need to establish a permanent presence out here. What kind of presence, sir? Johnson asked. A peacekeeping academy. A place where we can teach other species how to resolve conflicts the way humans do, and a fleet of ships to help enforce the agreements we make. Admiral Krex and Hive Queen. Zara looked excited. Commander, the Vorthak Empire and Zephyrian Collective would be honored to help build such an academy. Dr. Amy Foster smiled. It would be like a school for peace. Over the following weeks, Jake worked with representatives from all the alien species to design what they called the Galactic Peace Academy. The Vorthak provided a space station. The Zephyrians contributed advanced technology. Other species offered resources, ships, and personnel. Humans would teach the courses, but aliens would help run the academy. The goal was simple: teach every species in the galaxy that there were better ways to solve problems than endless warfare. 6 months later, Jake stood in the main hall of the completed academy. Students from dozens of species sat in classrooms learning human military tactics, but more importantly, learning human principles of conflict resolution. Lieutenant Clark had become the academy's chief instructor. Dr. Barnes led the xenobiology department, helping different species understand each other better. Engineer Walsh ran the technology division, developing new non-lethal weapons for peacekeeping. The academy's motto, suggested by Dr. Foster, was displayed in every classroom: victory through wisdom, peace through understanding. Jake received a communication from Earth that made him smile. Admiral Carter's face appeared on his screen. Commander Miller, I have news from home. The President wants to establish a new branch of Earth's military, the Galactic Peace Corps. You've been promoted to Admiral and asked to lead it. Jake looked around at the academy that had grown from one desperate attempt to stop a single battle. Students from species that had been enemies for centuries now worked together in the same classrooms. Former warriors learned to be peacemakers. Admiral Carter, tell the president I accept, but I want to stay out here. This is where the work needs to be done. As Jake ended the communication, he reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through superior weapons or advanced technology. They had conquered it through an idea, that the best victory was one that turned enemies into friends. The galaxy would indeed never forget the day humans ended dangerous warfare, not by making war impossible, but by making peace possible. Jake smiled as he watched alien students practicing negotiation techniques in the academy's main courtyard. The future looked brighter than anyone had dared to hope.